If you know somebody who could use some help marketing their business, if you would take the couple seconds to share this podcast with them, I would greatly appreciate it. Word of mouth is by far one of the best ways to organically market, so that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Matt Peet Marketing Podcast. And today I've got Michael Loban. Michael Loban is the Chief Growth Officer at InfoTrust. He's an adjunct professor at the University of Cincinnati and Xavier University, and is also a presenter and author with work published in Forbes, AdWeek, and CIO Magazine. Michael is the author of an Amazon best-selling book, Crawl, Walk, Run, Advancing Analytics Maturity with Google Marketing Platform. Michael, you have an awesome list of accomplishments here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So, and we were just briefly talking before we jumped into the recording here about why I think this episode is important, because analytics, it's not something I'm good with. I know how to run ads. I know how to create the ad stuff, but like analyzing the business and marketing and all of that kind of stuff, like it can go so in depth. And that's why I'm super excited to have you on the call today. So really quick, what's your marketing passion?
Great question. Everybody often starts with, how do you measure something, but not with what my passion might be around marketing. For me, it's to really understand why certain things happen the way they happen. So I'm always interested why some ads perform and others do not perform. I'm curious why some sites are successful and not successful. I'm curious why one person might click and buy a bundle of products together and another person might not. I'm curious to find out what works better, to say 15% off or $15 off on the purchases of $100 or more, right? So those are the things that I'm always curious about, is to figure out why would something work and something would not work. Why would a person or a customer do this but would not do this? And my work in measurement and analytics helps me a lot of times answer those questions, or at least build a hypothesis. Why does it happen this way? So that's really my passion. I'm just genuinely curious about things that are happening around me, and very much about why things in a digital world happen the way they happen.
That's awesome. So in your world with when you're trying to figure out these things, is it just like a ton of A/B testing to see what works best?
A lot of it is definitely A/B testing. A lot of it is just looking at the data and build a hypothesis. So I might be trying to answer the question, how do we increase average order value, right? Or how do we sell more products to the same user? Or how do we get more people to come back to the website? And as I work to answer those questions, then I ask myself, okay, well, what metrics can be contributing to answering that question, right? How much money can I afford to spend to generate the purchase? And then once I do this type of analysis, then I might have a hypothesis. And my hypothesis might be, well, if I do this, I will see this type of marketing result. And then you're absolutely right, A/B testing, or just for me to structure a marketing experiment and say, well, my hypothesis is that if I will do this, this will be the outcome. Let's see if I'm right. But one kind of thing that I always find troublesome or challenging is when I meet with maybe an organization or marketing team, and they often tell me, look, we just went through this rebranding exercise, or we just made this major website overhaul. And I ask them, well, what data did you use to decide that this new design or this new layout or this new brand is going to resonate with customers? And a lot of time the response is, well, we just think it works better. Like, well, maybe you're right, maybe you are not, right? I like to be a little bit more certain. That's why I'm always seeking for data to help me support my claim or my idea.
I love whenever, this is why I follow people like yourself online. Like I follow Russell Brunson. I don't know if you follow him at all.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So yeah, like
Click
he was
funnels.
talking, yeah, he was talking one time about data and this exact kind of stuff. And he was talking about how when he was designing a funnel, he was using a black background with white text because he loved the way it looks. And somebody came up to him and was like, so why do you use that? I'm sure you've done testing. He's like, oh, I just think it looks awesome. The guy who asked him, he's like, there's been like studies that show that sells less. You have to have the white background with the black text. Like it might not look as cool, but it sells better. So that kind of stuff, like you said, exactly your point. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Yeah.
And I think you have to leave your ego at the door when it comes to analytics, because a lot of times we like to think, well, of course I know better, right? You know what? I've been in the marketing field for 20 years. This is going to work. This is not going to work. And maybe you're right, right? I certainly would want for you to be right. I have nothing against you, but why risk it, right? Why not get additional data points and just validate your thought process?
Yep. That's so true. And there's so much of it out there. I mean, Russell Brunson has a book, 108 proven split tests. I mean, there's people out there who have really ugly sales pages that I've talked to them and they've said they've tried designing, like they've tried implementing prettier sales pages and it hasn't converted as well. So like if they just said, oh, I know better, this looks better, so it's going to sell better, based on what? Like they're missing out on money just because their page looks better, which is ironic.
Oh, and the other thing, let's say you just make the decision, hey, I want to have yellow background, right? Just for the sake of our discussion, and you make the change, and then all of a sudden your conversion rate increases. Well, is it really yellow background, or is there something else, right? There's when we simply make changes and we do not try to understand how small changes individually impact whatever we are measuring, it becomes very difficult for us to build on our success. So we might accomplish a positive result, but we still don't know what caused it. But how are you going to continue improving if you don't know what worked in the first place?
How would you test that? So like you said, you change the background to yellow from white and you see an improvement in sales, but you might not have taken into account, hey, I was guesting on 100 podcasts this month and we launched a video series, all this other stuff that went into increasing sales.
Sure.
How would you just keep changing the background color? How would you test that?
So first of all, background color, I would probably leave aside. And I would say if I have a lot of podcasts that are happening, what are the metrics what is the context, right? What should I be looking at? And I might say, okay, well, let's look at organic traffic. Right? That could be one of the first things I look at, regardless of what background I have. And if I say, look, it seems like over the past 6 months of actively being across different podcasts, I keep noticing that 2 or 3 days after podcast goes live, there is a spike in organic traffic. There's a trend. So, okay, now I can at least understand that this is something that is happening. And if I change background on the same day when I expect a spike, well, there's some additional piece of information that I need to take into account. So I'm always looking at the trends that are happening, and I always pay a lot of attention to context, right? Because things like, let's say, time on website or bounce rate or conversion rate, if you only look at the metric by itself, it's very easy to miss context, right? Well, the context is maybe there is a holiday that is impacting your sales. Maybe there is an article that was published about you that might be impacting your sales, right? So we have to be mindful about kind of the world that is happening around us and how that might impact what I'm measuring.
That makes total sense. And thinking of it from that seat, and again, I'm not an analytics person, so I overlooked this. When you said it, makes so much sense. Like, go back to the organic traffic. You can look at, then use the percentages. Okay, I had 10,000 visitors last month and sold to 10% of those. Okay, well, if you have 100,000 visitors, then you should still be able to sell to 10% of those people. You just have more visitors. So instead of just, that makes total sense. I love that. So Michael, what's something you see people doing in their marketing that makes you cringe?
I think it's a lot of what we discussed is just making changes without really having even thinking through a hypothesis, right? Of why would I make this change? The other one is, let's say I want to go on a limb and I want to change my background, or I want to make something because, hey, I read and now I I know that white background works better than green background, whatever that might be, right?
Yeah.
Then what I want to have some kind of idea. So how would I validate or measure that at the end, right? So what am I trying to accomplish, and how will I know if it worked or didn't work? So I'm always very mindful of whatever decision I'm making, what is that will help me validate that decision, or what will help me learn from that decision. What makes me often cringe is when somebody just makes a decision and they don't know what they're after, and it's like, well, let's just keep changing until something works. Well, but you don't even know what you're optimizing or working towards, so you will likely never know if it worked or didn't work.
Gotcha. So let's say somebody's got their business set up, they have their website, and they're trying to find a way to get this information to optimize their site based on data.
Yeah.
How would you go about doing? Because like somebody just starting a business, like, okay, I want to do it based on data, but how do I find that data? What is that process?
Sure. First of all, is my recommendation would be, let's not use the word even data, right? Because
Okay.
it already sounds a lot, right? Well, data, that's a lot of information. I'm just getting started. Well, let's try to break this down. You're just getting started, right? You launched the website maybe a week ago.
Okay.
Well, guess what? Nothing will happen in terms of sales until you have people coming to the website. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that would be maybe the first thing that I would say, look, forget about paying attention to all the data. Your goal right now, within the next 30 days, to bring 100 people to your website. And not just 100 random people, because guess what? If I have a large budget, I can almost guarantee that I will bring 100 people that will not do anything, right? So then I would say, well, who is the ideal visitor? Well, and the person might say, my ideal customer or prospect is somebody who spends time on Facebook, is somebody who is interested in this, and this. Say, great. So for the time being, what I want you to focus on is identifying that ideal persona, let's say on Facebook, advertising on Facebook, and getting that 100 people to the website. Because until you can get that threshold, until you can get people to the website, what's the point of us talking about your conversion optimization, about your landing pages, about your click-through rate? We just need to get 100 people to the website. And now all of a sudden, it doesn't sound so overwhelming. Data. No, it's not all of the data that we are after. It's that we just want to get 100 people, 100 qualified people to your website. So that's what I would do with the business, is I isolate 2 or 3 metrics that are important for the business when you are just getting started, and that's what we focus on. Once we know, hey, it seems like we can get people to the website, it seems like we know what we are doing, say, great. Now on your website, there is a contact us form, correct? Correct.
Yep.
Great. Now what I want to do is I want you to focus that out of 100 people, I want you to get, let's say, 5 to fill out a contact us form. That's all. So now we focus on 2 or 3 metrics, and you really understand how they work together, right? So now, okay, I need to get people to the website, and then I need to do something on my website to get them to fill out the contact us form. Anyone follows that, right? It's not overwhelming. We are not talking about hundreds of different metrics. We are talking about very actionable pieces of information.
I love that. That's hyper focused and directly actionable for everybody. Having the target goal, because like you said, what's the point in looking at hundreds of examples and data points on what works best if you don't know how to drive traffic to your site? All right, Michael, if you were to start marketing for a new business today and they gave you $1,000 in your budget, how would you spend it to get them some more clients?
So it's a great question. The first would be trying to understand what am I marketing, right? And who is the ideal customer. And the reason I say that is, if I sell protein bars online, that's one thing. If I sell heavy machinery or heavy equipment online, that's a very different thing, right? So let's say I sell protein bars online. Okay, well, if I sell protein bars online, I will ask myself, okay, who is the ideal type of customer? And I might say, well, my protein bars are for people who enjoy running. Say, okay, got it. So we need to identify people that enjoy running. I only have $1,000, so chances are I cannot go to Runner's Magazine, right, or Runner's World, and buy an ad there. It's going to be too expensive. So that's not going to work. Can I identify a niche running blog that maybe has an audience of 500 or 1,000 people, but those that are active readers, right? So it's a very small group, but I know that they enjoy reading that blog, they trust that blog, and chances are marketing on that blog is going to be cheaper for me. So then I would go to that blog and I would say, I would talk to whoever manages the blog and ask, hey, can I sponsor a newsletter? Or can we do a quick video and post it in a newsletter about these protein bars that now I am marketing? Can I offer a discount? Or maybe can we do a revenue split? For every bar that I sell, I keep 80% and then I give you 20%, right? So that would be my thought process is first, what am I obviously selling? Who is my ideal customer? And what are the underutilized markets where I can find those people? Because it's very easy to say, just go on Facebook or go on Instagram. But one is finding key people on Facebook or Instagram is difficult, right? It's an ocean of people.
Yep.
And on the other hand, because there are so many people, it gets very expensive very fast. So I'm always looking to identify niche audiences, small groups, and build relationships there.
Awesome answer. I love, and that's along the lines of what I tell people when they're trying to start their business. It's like, where is your audience, basically?
Yep.
Finding out where that is. I love that answer, but you just like went more in depth with it and gave like an action plan on different things they could do, like the 80-20 split thing. Like, that's a great idea. If you have a product you're selling to somebody, like, split the money with them instead of like trying to pay your way in. Split it with them, because then they have a stake in the success of whatever you're selling. Love that.
That's right.
All right, Michael, tell us a story of your biggest marketing mistake.
So years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, Facebook advertising was just ramping up, right? It was not a huge Facebook advertising machine it is right now. And Facebook advertising was done by third-party platforms. I think there was a platform, not Wildflower, but something like that. Wildfire, I think it was the name, Wildfire. And then the platform was purchased. So we decided to run some kind of contest on that platform. And something within the platform went wrong. So whenever you, me, or whoever participated in that contest, everyone who participated prior to us would get a notification. So imagine there are 100 people that participated in a contest. Person number 101 shows up, participates in the contest, and now 100 of those people get alerted that somebody else joined the contest. So it became very annoying, very quick. And it wasn't anything that we did. It was never part of the design, but there was some kind of solution failure. And people would start reaching out to me directly, saying, Michael, you should know better. Why are you doing this? This is very poor experience. And I felt sick to my stomach, right? And to the point that I believe somebody who was running for an office on a city council or something like that, they said, well, it seems like whatever I'm gonna post here, the message is going to be sent to everyone. So I might as well say it, vote for me. So it became just obnoxious and they couldn't get it to stop. So it went on over for the whole weekend until like all things, it just sort of settled down. People started participating and it was over. But as you can see now, 12 years later, we live in this. I still feel this ball in my stomach,
Yeah.
anxiety in my stomach. Exactly.
Oh man, I can't imagine. You got to do it. I mean, you don't have all the answers when you're starting. I mean, you're doing it on your own. Like, It's not something you would have made the program do, but I mean, you dealt with it. And like you said, now you're a better
Exactly.
person for it.
And, I apologized. I contacted people who I knew personally and explained it to them. And at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind, and what I tell myself is, look, things like this are going to happen. So for every mistake, for every success, there are probably 10 mistakes or whatever the ratio is. So you just keep on going.
Yep. I love that message. It's going to happen. Like everything we try in marketing isn't going to work. And you got to be willing to risk that in order to be successful. So Michael, what's your favorite marketing tool and why?
I'm tempted to say Google Analytics. Why, you can probably guess, right? As the person who's been in analytics space for 10 plus years.
Wrote the book on
it. Yeah, wrote the book on it, exactly. I would say actually it's more on the lines of, it's not really a tool, but just asking your customers questions. There is no substitute for that, right? Even if if you sell products virtually, I always tell our partners, clients, identify maybe some of your best customers and just offer to have a conversation with them, just talk to them, right? Because you have obviously a loyal fan base, whatever your products you sell. If you're a successful business, you always have a group of customers that absolutely love your products, right? They stand by them, they would recommend them, and just get them on a phone, talk to them, understand why, and a lot of times you will discover something that you have not considered. So to me, that still is probably the best tool, is to actually talk to your customers and have a conversation with them, interview them, and then you'll be able to discover a lot of additional information that tool like Google Analytics, no matter how powerful it is, it's still not going to give you this type of level of insight.
Since we mentioned the book, Crawl, Walk, Run, what's the book about and who's it for?
So the book is about digital analytics, but more how to structure a process within the organization to be more analytically driven. And as a company that I work at, InfoTrust, they predominantly work with very large enterprises, some of the most recognizable brands in the world. And we recognize that there are many small, medium-sized organizations that we simply cannot reach and we do not work with. But there is so much that we've learned by doing this type of work over the past 10 years that other people that might not be able to work with us, they still can benefit from the information and do a lot of this themselves. So that's what the book is about, is how to be a better marketer with data.
Love that. Everybody check that out. It's on Amazon. It's Amazon bestseller, Crawl, Walk, Run, written by Michael Loban. Awesome. So Michael, what's the best way for people to follow you? Where do you want people to go to continue hearing from you?
The easiest is to find me is probably LinkedIn, Michael Loban. As far as following me, I have a blog on the company website on InfoTrust.com, so they can easily find me there. But otherwise, LinkedIn, and anyone can always send me a message on LinkedIn, and I will respond. I do have a Twitter account, but I'm not as active on Twitter, and I'm not on TikTok.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. To everybody watching and listening out there, this episode for me has been super eye-opening, talking about the analytics, the data points, really getting to the core of how to grow a business. I really hope it's been as good for you as it has been for me. Thank you again, Michael, for being here. Everybody remember, marketing really matters. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Matt Peet Marketing Podcast. If you know somebody who has a business and they could use some help marketing and growing their business, if you would just take a couple seconds to share this podcast with them, I would be grateful, and I know they would be as well. Thanks.